I think it all really started when I was researching programs to go into. When I saw the video at Benettucci, at the class at Benettucci, harvesting food and then cooking food in a small kitchen, very grassroots type of setting, very rustic, very simple. And I was like, wait, this is a part of the sport nutrition graduate program? And I was like, I have to be a part of that. Being right at the farmhouse on campus and working with those farmers and being exposed to those farmers and learning about what they do, even at the earliest stages, was extremely eye-opening, and was like, this is food.
It's kind of hard to put into words how valuable my experience has been here. I didn't know that the program and food could make me so emotional, but it does now that I have reflected on it.
When I arrived in Colorado Springs in 2008, Eric Schlosser's Fast Food Nation drew attention to the sprawling Front Range, and specifically Colorado Springs. The Olympic city, while famous for their athletes, enormously challenged by poor food and a widening gap between those Coloradans hiking in the mountains and training for performance, and the city's minorities experiencing unsafe and unwalkable neighborhoods with limited access to healthy food. The Flying Carrot, a sport nutrition graduate student-driven food literacy project, was going to change that. This school bus was supposed to bring fresh food to those in need, offered playfully and athletically, with a cooking spoon and taste education, and wrapped in healthy eating and active living messages, so contagious and delicious that it would twist everyone's heart, wanting to live like a carrot. Well, the Flying Carrot did not manage to bring food to those in need, as was the initial intention as a mobile market. However, thanks to the vision of a few community leaders, the Flying Carrots, these sport nutrition graduate students found their road to the regional farms of the Arkansas River watershed just south of Colorado Springs. Years later, with the Carrots having become the community's food literacy change agents, the catalysts for local food, and the link between producers and consumers, I reflect deeply on this transformational change that happens when young people step on a farm. Initially, the vision was that nutrition students become the marketing engine for the farmer and promote local food education, while at the same time, they would learn from the farmer where food comes from, when it is in season, and how it's grown. Food literacy from the ground up. The story became much more profound, however. Little did I know that farm and food experiences for nutrition professionals in training would enrich an already vigorous science curriculum. In fact, this was the missing link. Understanding the soil and regenerative principles, and working on the land, seeding out the food that later would get harvested, cooked in the kitchen, and shared with peers, not only exploded with flavor and joy around the table, but it also triggered a reimagined understanding of soil, food, nutrition, and health connections. In fact, the personal journeys of sport dietitians, renewing their own relationship with food, became a critical springboard to the fusion of innovation theory and the possibility of transforming these farm and food experiences into teachable content and drastically expanding nutrition curriculum, conquering transdisciplinary boundaries and leaping into agrarian and Epicurean disciplines. It seems odd that the curriculum for dietitians would lack such crucial training in local food production and processing and its integration in dietetics practice, considering the great potential for health behavior change.
So with the food the good sustainable food that you get when you're trying to fuel for your sport or whatever activity you're doing, it has to come from good sources. It has to come from pure sources and sustainably grown sources and ethically raised sources, because that's what's going to give you the best nutrients that you're going to need to perform, to recover, and to have the highest immune system you can. So on the other side of the spectrum, in hospitals, that is where also the good local sustainable food needs to be, because that's a population that needs it almost more than athletes do, because they've faced a very traumatic experience, whether it's a heart attack or a stroke or things like that, and having those high quality nutrients and foods are really what they need to get their life on track, or to help prevent another episode of happening again.
I guess the industrial system has replaced home economics, and with that the knowledge and skills needed to build the toolbox for a lifelong, healthy relationship with food.
It's been an eye-opening experience to see the hard work that goes into food, and to be able to teach young students, incoming dining staff and incoming graduate students when they come into Food Next Door, to teach them about what a lemon cucumber looks like and what a chioggia beet looks like and what a purple carrot looks like. The same with like I think a red dragon carrot. I mean, they're beautiful carrots. They're what carrots used to look like. And we get to work with them and they're just gorgeous. So opening students' eyes to different types of food and then getting the backstory is of like where this food came from and it's right in your state is amazing. And having them make that connection and take those skills on with them into the kitchen at their house or, you know, for their families in the future.
That's food literacy. I quote Wendell Berry here. One must begin in one's own life the private solutions that can only in turn become public solutions. The lived experience in farming, gardening and cooking can also be linked to virtue ethics, the quest to understand and live a life of moral character.
For me, it comes down to my morals and my ethics and, you know, how I want to live and how I've been raised.
Food ethics have a lot to do with one's own experience with food, good or bad. Food should not just be a commodity, a thing, or a fuel. Students, especially in the sports sciences, who come to experience how food is grown and how much sweat it takes to get the harvest off the field, renew their values of food. They begin to understand that getting good food on the table requires time, relationships, integrity, and interdependence. Local food experiences, including the sharing of a meal around the table, give students a sense of what good life is all about. It is a eudaimonic experience. Eudaimonic is a term that expresses happiness, welfare, or the highest human good. These young people expand their food values beyond seeing food as an instrument to get them faster from start to finish. Farm and food experiences bring back the importance of place, bioregionalism, cultural identity, and connection. What students also learn about is the inequity in the food system and its people, from producer to consumer, as well as on the planet with the immense environmental impact that originates from industrial agriculture. Students begin to express empathy and gradually mobilize advocacy, not only for their own sake, but also for others along the food value chain. Thus, they develop a moral responsibility toward a better, healthier, regenerative, and equitable world. Food literacy therefore expands to advocacy and food citizenship. In 2014, UCCS transitioned its food service away from a corporate system to self-operation.
The vision was born by an administrator who put this large greenhouse here in the winter of 2012. I was hired and began to start to formulate a vision of how would we build a farm here and what would be its purpose. And say this farm could become more about demonstrating sustainable farming methods and more about educating folks about why food grown in your local soil and in the right time and with organic and sustainable practices, it makes it healthier for your body.
So from 2009 to about 2012, many of us pushed for a better food system on campus. Not only me as a faculty, there were multiple of us. And eventually we had one stakeholder who really drove the bus. UCCS has made a beautiful transition into a self-operated food service system, and so that took away your pressure. We transitioned into a local food system and a sustainable food system. A food service transition for a university is enormously powerful in terms of what benefits it can bring. It doesn't come without problems. There are many barriers that we still need to overcome in terms of localizing and regionalizing our food system on campus. So we do go to the Arkansas watershed and work with our farmers, and they have been appreciative of UCCS transition. So you can imagine that the link between our regional agriculture and a university can provide a means for these farmers because suddenly contracts are interesting.
Right.
We are trying to feed 10,000, 12,000 students.
Right.
So it's an important movement to help our farmers to get a livelihood and a meaningful work here in our community.
And in the process, teaching these, we lovingly call them the foodies, teaching them a little bit about the farming So they get to get right out into the gardening with us and learn to harvest and bring the food in, and that gives them great perspective for, you know, just how hard it is to grow your own food, and when do you get a carrot, and when do you eat greens. I think that the farm, as it grows and evolves into a foraging system, a food forest perhaps, we will be able to utilize every plant on the farm and just keep developing programming around it.
With leadership, staff and faculty involved in developing the vision and securing the budget, and students engaged in focus groups and discussions about the power of food on a college campus, it was quite clear what we wanted. We envisioned to employ UCCS students in food service and align the university's commitments to integrate student life and experiences on campus with academic instruction, while creating a positive dining experience with aim to deepen students' sense of place and promote community engagement with the regional food system. The transition was also going to ensure nutritious, healthy food was procured from sustainable and value-based food systems, prepared from scratch using menus of change principles to promote wellness and sustainability and offer exciting experiential education with better integration and expansion of academic programs focused on food. In 2012, UCCS Sustainability Office made a concerted effort to integrate food in its strategic plan, focusing on local and sustainable sourcing. In 2013, UCCS launched Food Education, the first large awareness campaign on campus food literacy, while the customer, that's the student, largely controls what changes take place on a college campus. Without leadership support, financial stability, a certain economy of scale, and academic integration, including faculty and student funding, this transition would not have been possible. Finally, our leader's own personal food journey ultimately allowed her to reimagine that healthy, sustainable, and delicious food on campus would also be the student's health-promoting ticket to academic success. What we were less aware of was related to the needed reskilling of food service personnel for both scratch cooking and integration of local food and seasonal menus, dealing with the fluctuations of student workers and the need to achieve financial stability before diving too deeply into establishing a distinct food culture. Moreover, it has also been challenging to sustain momentum in the face of turnover in food service, leadership and campus advocacy for better food. The fluctuations in local food availability and distribution, with the lingering perceptions that institutional procurement is driven by getting the highest quality of food at the lowest possible price, continue to pose difficulties for exactly those value chains that integrate best into academic pathways. Thus, food service transitions like the one at UCCS should ultimately get institutionalized on a procurement policy level, prioritizing some purchasing directly from small, medium-sized family farms, farms owned by minorities and women, food hubs or cooperatives, and those providing academically integrated learning experiences. Food service transitions in institutions have enormous potential to create equity in healthy food access to all students. If such transitions are embedded in a local food culture, with a campus farm and goals to increase local procurement, they are also ripe for student engagement in programs such as UCCS Food Next Door, a student-directed local food establishment.
With Food Next Door, the first year we were able to experience work on the farm. So every Monday I would go to the farm on campus, harvest the produce, clean up the produce, help transport the produce over here to Roaring Fork, and then came in later in the afternoon, took the produce out of the bins I had put it in earlier, and then started preparing and cooking it. So really just got to see the whole cycle of going from literally in the dirt to the plate for the consumer.
Like you said, I went to culinary school and we worked with food all the time, but after coming here I realized that I was working with food the whole time, but not really working with food. I knew food, but I didn't know food. That I can remember, we didn't talk about local procurement or the local farms around.
Food Next Door offers student learning experiences that combine farming and gardening in the face of climate change with nutritious, delicious menu design, local procurement problem solving, commercial cooking, serving, and peer advocacy all in one. Our research on Food Next Door has shown that such experiential learning opportunities build food and farm literacy, shift values, and transform students into food citizens. Today, Food Next Door is an integral daily component of UCCS dining and hospitality services. Food Next Door is only one example of what food service transitions and institutions can achieve if supported by the institution. Today, the UCCS Farmhouse is a food literacy hub with programs funded primarily through the Green Action Fund, which is a semester-based sustainability fee from students. The UCCS Farmhouse is open to everyone who wants to learn about food. This house intersects daily on issues of agriculture, nutrition, health and climate change, offering classes, luncheons, tours, and a weekly farm stand with food literacy that makes healthy food more accessible. In 2016, less than 2 years after UCCS transitioned its food service to self-operation, nutrition faculty put on UCCS' first food-focused course called Grain School. Grain School is a 3-day full immersion into the expansive world of heritage and ancient grains along the grain chain, from farming and milling to baking and cooking. This course is supported by on-campus entities and external sponsors.
You're like, oh, it's just grains. There can't be that much to know about grains.
It's not just grain.
I learned a lot of new techniques with different foods and cultures, and actually realized the community in food culture is much bigger and broader than I had originally thought.
There was practical hands-on, there was also advocacy, there was chemistry, which was really exciting. There was diet, nutrition, culture, and just a ton more.
Grain School always starts with farming, because without the farmers, there would be no Grain School.
You just kind of see people coming together that aren't normally together. You build kind of a family. It's a Grain School family.
It's about making connections, learning from others, not to use the word educational, but it's educational.
It is such an atypical course. It's not really a conference. We still keep it as an academic course, and it can be taken by students at the university, undergrad and graduate students for credit or not for credit.
I met a mentor and I learned how to make tortillas, and that was really cool to get back to the grassroots way we should be interacting with food.
So it's on a different level than just sitting in a lecture and learning about it.
And it may open a door to something that you didn't know you were interested in.
I think this could honestly be for anyone. You do not have to be interested in the field of nutrition or farming. This truly can apply to anyone.
We have established this tiered learning where the students are learning from the community members, they learn from each other.
It's important that they see where food comes from and that it takes a long time to produce, but how much better it tastes, how much better it is for you.
I like to eat good anyway, but it did refine and put help me understand what I'm actually doing a little bit better, and there's still so much to learn.
Boosting our nutrition and our diets with fiber is going to be critical for long-term health and make sure that we are rebuilding our microbiome.
And Grain School taught me a lot about that, about how, I guess, to appreciate what we have.
I thought the hands-on application piece of it was really valuable.
Not only give you the knowledge, but they put it in your hands. So you get to take something away from it. So when you go home, you now have all these new recipes and insights.
Really opened my eyes and changed my perspective.
I know there's going to be a lot of surprises, but the biggest one is probably that Grain School in the future will go to the field. That brings probably more of the hands-on experience to students, and internship opportunities and apprenticeship opportunities.
Grain School really exceeded my expectations, I would say.
Yeah, I think it was just a whole well-rounded experience.
I got what I was seeking and more.
So it's just the beginning. We're scratching the surface here, but it's really important.
And it's been pretty impactful.
I see familiar faces, and you see them in the community and you smile at them and you're like, I saw you at Grain School. So it's really a cool experience.
I would highly recommend it.
I would definitely try it.
Everyone is a student at Grain School. Grain School initially addressed a shortage of heritage and ancient grains in Colorado, and has since developed pathways in partnership with the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union to assist the Colorado farming community to re-establish heritage grain production and artisan professions along the Colorado grain chain and promote grain literacy everywhere. Grain School is a perfect example of what is possible once an institution changes its food culture.
Nutrition is what we eat. Food is always looked at as its fuel, It's not just fuel though. It's what we need to live. It's what we need to thrive, really.
The idea to connect academics to the change in campus food services was intended to provide place and value-based food experiences from alternative food systems that would not only bring quality of life, wellness and student success to the forefront, but also allow faculty to collaborate and develop transdisciplinary partnerships to address the threatening predictions of obesity, undernutrition and climate change, as recently highlighted by the Eat Lancet Commission. The campus-wide Sustainability, Wellness and Learning Initiative, also called SWELL, was created to raise awareness that wellness and sustainability are joint constructs and that personal and planetary wellness are connected and best addressed together. Today, the SWELL initiative is managed by 2 part-time faculty with a team of graduate students and an overall budget of nearly $200,000. Partnerships with Live Well Colorado, the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union and the Annex at Ardent Mills have made it possible to expand UCCS food service transition into research and community-based projects that together address institutional procurement policy from value-based food systems, health and wellness through farm and food literacy and advocacy, and the rebuilding of a heritage grain economy with focus on closing America's fiber gap and boosting people's health. Thus, UCCS' commitment to good food on campus brings along with it win-win-win solutions for the health and well-being of our campus and students, the Southern Colorado community, and nature.
I don't have to rely on the main food system. I rely on the local farmers because that's where I want to put my money, because I know that food's better, at least than what I was getting in the grocery store. It's just a huge transformational experience. And it all started with going here and going on the farms and working with those farmers and going through the program, like even the academics, and just making the connections on campus, just being open to any opportunity that is available on campus. That's what created it. If I hadn't been a part of SWELL or seen the video on the website, I don't really know where I'd be. I'm so much happier and a better person now, I feel like, since I've gone through this. It was from deep in my soul. It might sound corny, but from deep in my soul, it was a life-changing experience.